Hey everybody, welcome back to our digital marketing series. Tonight we have an incredible workshop for you, and we're going to talk about creating sales funnels. We have the CEO of Media Garcia here to help us create and go through sales funnels, and I'm really excited to have him here. And as I've got to know him and his business and things like that, and his knowledge of this area is absolutely incredible. Super excited to have him share with us. I want to take a quick moment and thank the U.S. Business Administration for our cooperative agreement that funds this SBA Center here, as well as Utah State University, and look forward to all of these different classes that we're able to present and bring to you. And I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to Louis Garcia and let him take over. Go ahead and take it away. Let me go ahead and stop my screen share and let you do your thing. Perfect.
Okay, great. Thank you for that generous introduction, Megan, and for all those who are responsible for putting together this event and all the planning and organizing. I know there's always so much that's going on behind the scenes that we just don't know about it. You just kind of tell me like, hey, show up, and I do, and there's people here, which is fantastic. So thank you for making that happen. And so my name's Louis. I'm the co-founder of Media Garcia. We're a growth agency that works with small businesses on getting onboarded to CRMs, using them better, all the things from the marketing tools to the sales tools to the customer service type tools. And we do that because we believe in a worldwide inclusive economy where all small businesses can thrive. And we believe that these fundamental tools can make a really big difference for people, especially when they're on their journey into entrepreneurship. We know that entrepreneurship is like the one field that we choose to go into, and there's like a high degree of failure. Like people don't go into like being a dentist, and they're like, I might not be a dentist later after I, spend how many years in school and doing the certifications and things. It's it isn't guaranteed, right? And then so there's a lot of things that are barriers that, and a lot of times are blind spots, for businesses as they're young and growing. And we believe we've found a couple of blind spots. And so we've created some packages around and developed some expertise, particularly around using a customer relationship management tool and sales funnels and deals to bring some growth and some ease of growth to your business. So I will be going through a couple of different things and actually sharing my screen here. So here we are. And actually, let's just go ahead and present. Fantastic. Okay, so there's going to be a few parts to this. So I'm going to continue on with my introduction. I'm going to go through the inbound methodology and explain what that means and how that applies to sales funnels, and then talk a bit about customer relationship management tool. That's when we'll get into more about what the sales funnel is and how to structure it and build it and create it in a way that works for you. And then we'll get hands-on. We are a HubSpot solution partner, so you may they are one of the CRMs that are on the marketplace. There are many fine CRMs. We just happen to specialize in their tool. So I'm going to be pulling up a demonstration portal that I have on that account and actually showing hands-on how to do it, how to set up some of these things that are going to make a difference for your business, like speeding up your sales cycle, being able to be organized and track all the information that's important. And while these concepts, aren't breakthrough concepts, they can be really applied to any CRM. So if you're already using something else and you're like, oh, geez, this doesn't apply to me, it actually might. It just, a lot of times the different tools that are out there can accomplish the same thing. But if you're not in a CRM yet, then it's going to support and accelerate your sales cycle tremendously. And so we'll get on kind of hands-on, and then we'll wrap up. I like to make this also interactive. So I'm going to like pause every now and then and ask for questions and things, because and if you have something during the presentation, I encourage you to do whatever means possible to get our attention. You can feel free to interrupt me. You can, sometimes the Zoom has like the raise hand feature, right, Megan? I think there's, I don't know if you've got that there. You can chat maybe, depending on I don't know all the features that are here, but
We've got all the features. Raise the
all right,
hands. You can chat if you don't want to interrupt him. You
get
can
on video
see
and
it. You
do
can
this.
do whatever. We'll make sure it happens. So
All right, super. All right, I'm excited. Let's do this. All right, a little more about myself. I spent 11 years in Fortune 500 IT and business intelligence departments. I got my hands dirty in process improvements and agile project management. And then I left that career about 4 years ago and took my then side hustle web development company that I did on nights and weekends, and I side hustled it. And I was like, just kind of applying something that I learned at my full-time gig. And I encountered tools like HubSpot and the CRM, and I said, oh wow, this is kind of neat. I think I actually want to do this stuff on a full-time basis and pivot my business more into this direction and provide these types of services, because I often found myself making websites for businesses but never handling the other side of the business, which was, well, what about the sales that comes from that website? What about the lead opportunities that come funneling through? I think that often side is a part of the equation that gets missed early on in some of the very earlier iterations of business websites. And so I took on more of those CRM technologies, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. And on personal note, I have a family, of course, got a couple of kids, got a dog, and a cabin. I like to play tennis and cycle, and that's what my hair looks like and beard looks like when it's a little shorter. So here we go. And this is a reminder that Media Garcia's mission is to create a worldwide inclusive economy where all businesses grow with ease. All right, so inbound. Does anyone know, has anyone seen this graphic before? I'm curious, whether the funnel part or the fly, they call this part the flywheel on the right-hand side. Okay, I see some head nods and some hand waving, good. Okay, cool. So what, the title, there's a couple of misnomers, I think, with my agenda and even the title of this webinar. First of all, when I talk about customer relationship management tools, it doesn't really apply very well, because it tracks and manages or organizes more than just customers. It's prospects, it's your vendors, it's your employees, it could be other people. And it's not always about management. It's really about creating a process that allows people to go through your business prospecting journey with ease. And so when we often think about the sales funnel, we usually see the things that are on the left side of the screen, where you market to so many people, so many people you ask and you send emails and you put advertisements out and your social media posts, and you have so much of a reach, right? That's all in the marketing realm of things, and the intention is that you're pulling people in for a sales conversation. And so usually you hear things like, well, we had 10,000 hits to our website last year, and we got 1,000 leads for sales, and out of that we got 100 customers. And so on the surface that feels good, like we can kind of see that the tiering of those numbers, but the focus of it is usually on that final piece, the customer. Now, when we think about nowadays, like how people are selling, usually there's a lot of social selling involved, especially people sharing about services and products through social media. It's about people leaving reviews, giving referrals. And so it's oftentimes what fuels a business's growth, particularly in the early stages, is the success of those customers. And so if you look at the success of your customers as a primary propeller in your growth, then you'll see something more like on the right, which is the flywheel, where you're looking at marketing brings people in. Yes, you want to attract them, and then you want to engage them with a sales component and provide them an easy way to buy from you. And then ultimately you want to make them successful when you're servicing that client or the customer. That ultimately is going to bring in more people into your flywheel, so to speak. And then the easier it is for people to move through the flywheel, the bigger it grows. And so the focus becomes more about the customer and their holistic journey. And so while there's a lot of things that happen in the marketing end and even after the sales experience on the customer service end, I'm going to dig into some sales specific things. So the things that this webinar will cover are going to be more in the sales realm, so to speak. But thinking of your funnel as a flywheel will open up other things to look at in terms of how to grow your business. I'm assuming that most people today, maybe just are people getting a lot of word of mouth or referral business? Is that kind of like a primary avenue, or do people get a lot of leads through other channels like online? Kind of curious to hear from someone. Would anyone want to share what they're getting out of this or where they're at with their business in terms of how they see their funnel? Yeah, go ahead. Oh, see here, Adam. I think you're.
There we go.
There you
Can
go.
you hear me now?
Yeah, I can.
So my wife and I have mostly been word of mouth or organic growth on Facebook and Instagram, and now we're starting to get into like paid ads. So we're doing a little bit of both.
Got it.
Yeah.
Do you think is the majority coming through that word of mouth and referral?
It has been, yeah. So like I say, we're just getting started on the Facebook ads and
that
type of stuff. So
it makes a lot of sense, that's good news, right? Because that means that there's a market demand, right? That there's people who like the product, they like you, right? And it's usually, I mean, that's the first thing that needs to happen, is that customers are enjoying what they're going through. Because if they don't, then it doesn't matter if you spend a bunch of ads and bring in a bunch of new people through the pipeline, they're going to have a crummy experience, right? So if that part of the business is healthy and growing, then it makes attracting more people into it more, less with less friction. So the ads thing is a new thing, right? I'm hearing.
I mean, I've done some in the past, but we're really starting to focus more on it as of lately. So within the last couple months. So.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And my last question for you: what would you say about what's your sales pipeline look like today? Like, what's that from a back end, maybe from a customer experience, but also kind of back end, what's happening, during all the different milestones and things.
So front end, it starts with the front end, of course, and you got to get people interested. So we're offering them something to capture an email, and then from there we just send out emails to give them content and to cultivate that relationship. And then when we're ready, we offer them a product, right? So online course or a coaching session or things like that. So different things that we offer, but yeah.
Okay, got it. Yeah, so you're engaging them and nurturing them, providing value ahead of that sale, and so it's about being seen as valuable, relevant, and an expert in your space, right?
Correct.
So that's great. So that's attracting people through those marketing channels, and once they get to that sale opportunity. So I'm going to add on a bonus question, actually, Adam.
Okay.
And thank you. You're doing great, by the way. I'm really appreciating these these answers to these questions.
Sure.
Once you have qualified an opportunity, what does it look like then for that sales, more of the sales component?
As far as like actually doing the selling?
Yeah. You mentioned that you offer like courses. So are you like emailing, or is it like a call or some other way?
Yeah. So we have a few different ways. We try to cultivate through the emails, as well as in the emails we say, hey, we have a YouTube channel, we have Instagram, we also have a podcast that I'm just actually getting ready to launch right now. And so we hopefully have them go and follow and listen to that stuff, which also helps cultivate the relationship and the trust. And then from there, we offer them, as we can send out emails, and as they listen to the podcast, we'll also offer them, hey, go grab this free, book or whatever. And then that sends them through a funnel as well to get them interested in between like emails, follow-up emails, and weekly, kind of just inspirational content emails. Will hopefully get them interested in
Sure.
online courses, or as we make offers. So periodically throughout the process. Yeah. I hope that answers your question.
It does. Thank you.
Yep.
How about for anyone else? I mean, I want to kind of open up even broader. Does anyone else hear anything for themselves or have a question about inbound funnel, the flywheel?
Okay, so I'll ask. I'm very new to all of this. So I guess the question would be, as far as organic reach, I'm trying to go before I start to pay for ads. But I want to still, of course, create a funnel or the buyer's journey. I'm assuming that's what it's called. I'm getting very new to all this. So I guess what's the best way if you're new? Because I'm bringing my business onto social media. I've done everything in person so far. And then, of course, I had to pivot and create an online platform for it.
Got it.
So you may have answered some of the question with the gentleman.
No, not at all. This is totally, no, we haven't answered this. And so I got a couple of, so I want to recreate what I heard. So you're looking for ways outside of advertise or paid methods to organically grow your reach, and then also have a system there to nurture them through the buyer's journey.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's like every marketer's full-time thing to figure that whole thing out. But I think you're on the right track. You got the right idea, because you're looking at first your buyer persona. So you want to understand who is it that you're marketing to. What is the value that you need, you want to provide to them ahead of that sale, so that you're nurturing them in through your different channels. And then a place to look at that when thinking about what are the kinds of things to engage with them are, looking at so the buyer's journey is a 3-stage considered involvement, purchase process that a person goes through. And so the first stage is their awareness stage. They need to become aware to the problem that they're having. Okay. And sometimes they don't even know their problem having, and you got to like point it out to them, or like start educating them on the problems that they're experiencing. So it's building their awareness to that. And so a lot of times that's it's going to be like ebooks or guides, those types of things. That's going to be a very what they call a top of the funnel offer.
Okay.
Where it's not so much about you and your business yet and why you're going to be the best for them and all that. It's just getting them interested in like why this is even a problem for them.
Okay.
And once they're clear on the problem, then you can start offering these are the different solutions, and that moves more into a consideration stage. And it'll be more about here's the different solutions that you can do. You can get coaching. You can read a book. You can, like typically there's lots of different ways to solve someone's problem. And those are best shared in things like checklists or comparisons, like coaching versus, this or that kind of thing. Right. And then ultimately at the end, it's about why you. It's the choice that they get to make at the end about who they're going to do business with, and like why you're the best qualified to solve the problem that they have. And so it's a lot of like your case studies and testimonials and those types of things. So having just the one page of content along each one of those, the process for what you're doing. Would I think make a lot of sense. So, and I see a question from Adam actually in the chat. So what kind of coaching do you do?
So I work with women who deal with self-sabotage that holds them back from wanting to start their own business, basically. So more so on the lines of personal development.
Got it.
Yeah.
So do you have like a a guide or some type of like white paper or thing, that is that it kind of explains that, like, because it might not be present to women, like, oh, this is happening for me, right? Like they might not have that total awareness around that kind of thing. It's gonna
Yes.
have to be a little like revealed to them, like this is gonna be your blind spot.
Correct. Especially working with my, I guess, group of people. They don't recognize that they suffer from this. They may notice, but I guess I would have to focus more on the awareness stage. That would probably be more of the area I need to work on as far as my lead magnets. Is that what it's called? Yeah, I think so. And stuff like that before I get into this. Okay, that works. I just wanted to know. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So just so that you have an idea, those that will probably be watching the replay on this would probably be a lot that are from my area. And a lot of them probably don't have sales funnels in place and things like that. We were really lucky to come from a tourist area and have a natural organic flow of customers. And a lot of that was tourists that come through the area all the time. We had international tourist groups that come in on buses and things like that. And so a lot of our clients here at the SBDC had just kind of a natural organic flow. And that's how they got a lot of their customers. Well, COVID hit and international tourist bans went into place. A lot of people stayed at home versus traveling, things like that. And so that's where a lot of those that are going to watch the replay are going to be watching thinking, now I need to set up new ways of bringing in new clients because of COVID, or because I had to pivot my business or things like that. And so that's kind of going to be the transition for a lot of those that are going to be watching this. And that's not necessarily just from this area. That might just be a total pivot in general. But that's what a lot of that are going to be watching that replay. So I don't know if that's helpful information for you, but I thought I would share.
Yeah, no, it's extremely relevant. Yeah, there's a lot of friction in the flywheel, right, for tourism right now. Depends on where you're at.
So a lot of areas doubled their tourism, depending on where they were, and then other areas didn't, depending on where they are. And we're sadly one of those areas that did not. And so, and that's for different reasons altogether. But at the same time, those businesses still have to figure out how they're going to get their customers and stay in business as businesses. So.
All right. So during my own transitions from part-time side hustle to on my own team of one to growing a team, to which we're a team of 5 now, a customer relationship management tool has and continues to be a key part of my growth and the business growth and success. So our customers that we work with and people who I work with typically either don't have a CRM already, or they have one, but they're not quite using it, or they don't really get how to use it to the full potential. And they're not really getting the insights that they were hoping to get when they had signed up for it. And so I actually shared this this CRM information at a weekly webinar as well, which I'll put a link to it later for the group. So there are many different uses for a CRM. The key people who benefit from a CRM are going to be the business owners who gain from having a centralized location of all prospecting and customer interactions. This allows you to track your interactions over a timeline and see how you've been interacting with people. For instance, I've gone on a mission to never let anyone in my contact list be without engagement for over a year. Because about 3 or 4 months ago, I realized that I had about 800 people inside my database who hadn't had any activity in over a year. And so I had to go through and start going through each one. But thankfully I had a CRM to kind of tell me that information. It took me some time to figure it out, but I did. The other group that benefits is going to be the sales team. So using a CRM tech tool will decrease sales cycles, leading to more sales. And also it just keeps things organized so that way things don't fall through the cracks. I think that's often one of the most blind spots, I think, for folks who aren't using a CRM tool, is that typically their deals move a lot slower because they're not consistent with the follow-up, or they forget that they were supposed to follow up with this person or send them a proposal, and then like weeks go by, and then they're like, how can we drum up some sales? Oh, I forgot that this person asked for this thing weeks ago. And so there's a lot of times there's things like that happening. Additionally, customers benefit from the use of a CRM because they are interacting with your business, and sometimes they're interacting with a lot of different people. And so having one central organized place for information about your prospects and customers will lead to their delightedness, because then they don't have that experience that you forgot something particular about them, or some type of detail that they feel like they've already explained to a bunch of different people before. And so it's really going to help with communication. My team helped me out with this deck, so there's some influence there. Usually if people aren't already using a CRM, they ask, well, when's the right time to start? And if you aren't using one, I pretty simply, I encourage you to start right away. Usually things like tracking things on pieces of paper, or in file cabinets, or in stacks of invoices, or in email inboxes even. All those places are dreadful places to be storing critical business things, and having it again in one central location, particularly for your sales process, which we'll dig in here in a moment, will make it so everyone can start operating and rowing in the same fashion, and more consistently than not. Oftentimes jumping in between the different sources where this data lies, it takes a lot of time, and it makes it more difficult to answer really key questions like, who are my customers? How are we interacting with them? What messages do they respond to? What are they not responding to? And then the next question, usually, if you're like, okay, yes, I'm going to be on a CRM, usually the question goes to, well, how much does one cost? And so there's a whole array of CRMs in the marketplace. One of the reasons why we've partnered with the HubSpot CRM is because their CRM is free, and it's a forever free product. There are some limits, of course, and they do have other add-ons and products that they do that I think they're fantastic. And I like that it's free because it allows people to try it out, without having to take the plunge. Some other CRMs will ask you to pay up front, or have like setup fees, and some do other things like they price based on user or storage limits, and lots of other things that in the long term don't always work really well in the best interest of what you need. And we found that HubSpot is fairly a great place to begin. And usually when you're going to those higher paid tools, it's because there's been some growth up front, and that you see the return on the investment. And so that's ultimately what we have in mind. So do it right away. Speaking of which, is there, I think, Adam, you had mentioned that you saw the inbound before. I'm just kind of curious to hear from the group whether you just want to chime in and say, are you using a CRM now or not? If you are, if you wouldn't mind mentioning which one, and then, yeah, that's what I'm curious to hear.
I am using the CRM. I use Kajabi at this time. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, Ina, I see no, not currently. Thank you. And then anyone else, feel free to chime in. or chat it up. Salesforce. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Salesforce is another very common CRM platform, particularly around nonprofits. That it's free for nonprofits. Shane, I see not currently either. Thank you. Okay, good. Well, let's start to get into action here. Yeah, Nina, name a few. Great question. So a couple out there would be, so in addition to the HubSpot one that I'll be going into here in just a moment, there's some other common ones are Zoho. They have like a set of features and things that on top of the CRM system. There's also Insightly is another one that I keep hearing here and there. There's Salesforce, which is it's free for nonprofits. It's kind of like the Porsche for CRMs. It allows you to be able to do a lot of things, but you're going to typically need a developer who's skilled in Salesforce to customize some of the things. But if you have a large sales team, it's a great tool to have. And there's also integrations a lot of times between the different kinds of CRMs. For example, Salesforce works really great for sales sides of things for large sprawling teams. However, tools like HubSpot actually have a stronger marketing aspect to it. And so they are also integrations between the two systems, which again are typically reserved for multi-million-dollar businesses. So if you're not in that boat, then this is probably all not relevant. Yeah, those are going to be some of the key ones that come to mind, Nina. All right. So I'm going to stop my share for a moment, and we're going to get into action here. And I'll start stepping through what the CRM looks like. Okay, so while I'm going through this CRM, so what you're seeing right now is the HubSpot home, contact page. This is a test portal that has been set up, and it's set up with all the free tools. So what you're seeing here is all free. You get it, and it's free forever. There might be other areas that when I'm dropping down here, you can see that some things are called out like this requires an upgrade, etc. And there's more detail and in terms of what's included and not at the free level on HubSpot's website. So at the core is the CRM. And this contact page, you can see I have about 5 contacts set up in the company. They're all sample example contacts. And I can click on a contact and it brings up a 3-panel screen where I can see information about the contact in the left-hand corner. And there's a timeline of what's happened to this contact's record here in the middle. And then there's all the associations that this contact has on the right-hand side. So, for example, Michael Scott here, I can see different properties and add things and so forth. I want to complete this record a little bit more, so I'm actually going to associate the company and see if we have Dunder Mifflin, which we do. So you can have multiple contacts associated to a company. So if you're in the B2B space, particularly helpful. You want to be able to track all the contacts that are within a company. If you're more in the B2C space, this might not be as applicable to you, but you can still track company, and it may make sense in some respect. There's also deals. So deals are where you would track your sales opportunities, and they belong to or associated to both the contact and the company. So let's say I have a deal opportunity with Michael Scott here. I'm going to click on the add button and start going through. And let's just say I have a $100,000 deal with Dunder Mifflin. You see here that it's going to select the sales pipeline, and this is the default pipeline that I have set up in my HubSpot portal. And then you see the deal stage, and there's different deal stages here. And I'm going to talk about deal stages when we get to the deal screen and show some strategies to take on when customizing and editing your deal stages, and how to visualize that for simple tracking. So I'm going to fill out just some of the other fields here. Say this is a $100,000 deal, and I want to close it by the end of the month. So I'm going to pick that as the close date. It's going to associate myself with the owner. So if you're on a team and you have multiple salespeople and you want to be able to track, deal performance across different people, then you assign different ownerships, and then you'll be able to get sales report and to see how different people are performing on your team. And there's also this other field type here. Ask me if it's new business or existing business, which I'll select new. And we can also associate line items with the deal. So you can see that it's already associated the company and the contact. And now I can go through here and say, well, I want to manage my product library and add items in here that they can be selected for the sales. So there's a product library. Oh, here we go. So this is an example of one of those paid features. So let me back up. So you can't do the products in the free one, but it's a demonstration that we can get to that point. So using products, because I know we have one e-commerce business in here. They're depending on the number of products that you're selling on your website, using a CRM tool, and sometimes a shopping e-commerce platform can do this, but with integrating with the CRM, you're able to oftentimes build up additional marketing insights and integrate even your product library into a CRM. So that way you could potentially bring in sales or other insights from your e-commerce platform or other places that you sell from. All right, I'm going to create this deal. And we're now in a deal screen. So it looks like just like the contact screen. It looks kind of like the company screens. All those screens relatively are the same. Again, all the information is on the left-hand side that you can customize. There's a timeline events in the middle, and then all the associations here on the right-hand side. So as I'm working this deal through the pipeline, I'm going to be leaving notes, and I might say, met with Michael, and he wants to expedite the order. And I might create a task for myself to follow up, and let's just say I want to follow up by tomorrow. And if I have to alert someone else on my team, like Shabazz, and say, hey, Shabazz, will you expedite this on the double? Now, Shabazz is going to get a notification from me, and it's going to say, hey, you've been assigned this task, and he's going to receive the information. So now he knows what to do next to move this deal forward. And so this is common practice that we have. We'll be commenting on the task, and now you can see it as part of the timeline. And he might come back in here later today or tomorrow and go in here and type some comments and tag me back. I'll get an email notification, and it's also going to show up in my alert screen as a notifications to see, okay, what tasks are due, coming up. So again, this is useful in keeping our information organized. There are a couple of different integrations that this CRM has, and a lot of other CRMs are very similar in this respect. You're able to email from them usually, and you can email with the free version with an integration to Gmail or Office 365, or by using the IMAP protocol. So why this is useful is by connecting your mailbox, you can start pulling in certain emails into your CRM and automatically creating contacts and creating a timeline of those email communications that have been going out since the beginning of your relationship. It's a lot easier to go through a timeline like this and to find all the emails that have been sent back and forth than it will be to try to find all the emails in Gmail, I promise. With having the timeline here, it organizes and threads things really easily, so you don't have to go to your inbox as much to try to find where are things left off in the conversation that's happening between you and them. So in addition to email, that happens within Tool, you can also call. Very useful for your sales team. That's you know, on the phones usually is a common part of the day-to-day activities. And so if they're calling, you can call within the tool. You have options to record the calls as well. And then it'll prompt you if you have to provide the recording disclaimer and the states where that is required. And it can do like the, call, what is that? The where it kind of masks your phone number. So you validate your phone number of your business. And so that way, when you're using this phone number, it looks like you're calling people, or that the business is calling the people you're reaching out to. And where that, so the calls, is a great tool to have. You can also log. So if you're not using the calling tool or the emailing tool within HubSpot, you can say, yeah, I had I logged an email. This is who I emailed to. This is what was said. Again, just using these interactions on a day-to-day basis will keep you organized and help you in knowing who to target. All right, so let's get into the sales pipeline. So I created this deal for Michael Scott and Dunder Mifflin. And in the HubSpot portal under sales and deals, we can see that now my Dunder Mifflin deal is here. And my pipeline's a little light. I just have 2 deals in it. I have 1 deal with HubSpot and I have 1 deal with Dunder Mifflin. And there's 2 ways to visualize this. We have the tracks where we can see the different stages throughout the pipeline. And this allows me to click and drag deals throughout the pipeline. And I can also change to a list view. So if I want to see it more like a list and see where things are at, it just reformats it this way. So two different ways to view the pipeline. I like to view it like this because it organizes by stages and it offers a useful visual in terms of what I should be looking at. And so a couple of things I want to mention about the sales pipeline. The first piece being, really looking at what stages you want to track for your deals. And each business has a different approach to this. And it kind of depends on how involved your sales process is. For example, for a, buying soda pop is a low involvement activity. Typically you just need to find someone who likes soda pop and they're going to be like, yes, I want it, or no, I want it. There isn't typically a lot of, like, well, should I or not, should I ask someone if I should have a soda pop, like, what would my mom think? Like they're usually all those questions don't run into people's minds, very low involvement. But then when you look at something like coaching, like who to pick as your coach, it's highly involved. I mean, you're typically, that person might be maybe looking for lots of different, or discussing with different coaches, right? They're probably looking for someone to be the right fit, like who's, because it's a very trusted, kind of trusted relationship. So who are we going to trust? I need to see the proof. I want to know what the system is, and so there's a lot of research that kind of happens ahead of time. And so the deal pipeline between those 2 businesses, right, completely different. And again, the sales pipeline for something like e-commerce, it's also a very different situation. Typically if they're just shopping on your site, the pipeline is often viewed as like, did they put something in their cart and then did they buy it? And usually there isn't a whole lot more beyond for e-commerce. Now there could be, if it's like B2B e-commerce where businesses are in kind of long conversations about things and there's an e-commerce element, totally could be plausible. But and for Carrie in your accounting practice, right, and as you're looking at expansion, it's you might have like 2 different kinds of pipelines, because you might have one pipeline for the kind of businesses that you're working with today, and then you might have a whole different kind of pipeline if, like, say your like expansion is part of like moving up market and you want to track now like enterprise, huge deals or something like that, right? Like they have like a whole different type of pipeline and experience and different milestones that that you need to kind of check off along the way. And so I recommend structuring the sales pipeline and these deal stages as the key milestones that you want to be able to track around the way. So you can see that, like this example is, we have an appointment scheduled, we have an appointment completed, we have a contract sent, and the contract signed. I might even say, you know what, actually for this type of business we're doing, I want to know if they've even requested a contract before we've sent one. So I might go here and say, I want to add that as a stage. So I'm going to demonstrate how editing stages now in HubSpot happens. So on the board action button here, there's this edit stages. And that's going to bring me to a new screen where I can see now the stages here as a list. And so let's say I want to add this contract requested, because I want to know, out of all the appointments that we completed, how many actually requested one before they actually, and delineate that, or kind of separate that out from what's been sent so far. And why this might be important for me is because I'll be able to see, well, what's the next action that's needed at each step. If I see deals that are in this contract requested stage, I know that it's largely on me right now to be able to nudge that deal forward. So I'm going to make that change here. So let's say I had this great meeting with Michael from Dunder Mifflin. We did the meeting. I would move it here. And after the meeting, I say, hey, Michael, do you want to contract? Would you like me to send over the contract? And he says yes, and I'll move it now to contract requested, which I don't know why it's not letting me move it. So maybe I got to refresh it or go into to here and do it. Or there we go. So it's contract requested. And now I have a visual, and there's things that we can do now to say, okay, well, when I look at the pipeline, I can visually see really quickly where are the deals at, what's the next step that needs to be taken for each step of the deal. Does anyone have any questions about this, the pipeline, this deal stages? Or maybe you want to share like what yours are like, if when I talk about milestones, what are you tracking something like that today, or is it not like that?
Hey,
I
how
see
you
you on
doing?
the, okay, hey,
Yeah,
what's your
sorry I
name?
was late. Oh, my name's
Uh,
Manuel, but this is me, my brand right
okay,
here.
good.
So
Thank you.
basically, what I'm seeing is my big whiteboard digitalized.
Mm,
Like who to talk to, did I talk to them, how it went. If it didn't go good, I'm gonna wipe them off. But I mean, basically, the CRM is just basically getting your contacts,
yeah,
getting all online, your phone numbers and all that stuff, so you can hit them up later on.
yeah, exactly. It's like digitizing your whiteboard, which maybe the whiteboard's cool,
Things,
right? You can still use it because
yeah.
it's very useful to have something physical. I like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I got a wall of whiteboard of like my to-do list, my ideas, my
Uh-huh.
drawings, steps here and there. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, take it off. But so
No,
yeah,
it's the system that you found that works for you. I mean, it's great, right? We all create some type of structure to fulfill on it, right? So what this will do is, it can keep track of those contacts. So maybe instead of like wiping them off and like who knows if you just like never follow up with them again, right? Like this
right.
could be like follow up with them in 6 months, right? And be like, hey, like we talked 6 months
So
ago.
right there on top.
Has anything changed, right? So that you can start to track and look for if it's useful, right? Sometimes people you might just have to be like, yep, wiping away, never want to offer that sales prospecting to journey them again, right? There's some people who just aren't a good fit, and those are usually the people that to say, yeah, we'll take them out of the CRM. There usually is a point where it doesn't make sense to have a contact anymore in it. But yeah, so the CRM is about nurturing, managing those relationships, and ultimately your community.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. What's your sales? So what's your, if you wouldn't mind just expanding on and answering this, like what's your sales process look like?
My sales process is nothing right now. But
Okay.
yeah, so I'm basically just a startup, wanting to learn
Uh-huh.
as much as I can. And, I'm just here to soak it all in.
I got it. Yeah, that's great. So my
Yeah.
recommendations, right, is look for like what are those key milestones, and so what are you? Is it like a gym or training, right, or is that what you're in? I'm just asking because I see the background and stuff.
Oh yeah. I've been
Yep.
trying to get back back at it and stuff. I think I might have caught that Rona. I mean, I was dead tired for like a whole month. But I'm back at it, and I had to get into it. But yeah, it's called Strike Buddy. It's a little bit harder than this thing right here, this heavy bag. It's got a
Uh-huh.
chain on it, for the Tony Fergusons out there that want to kick some hard stuff.
Yeah.
This is
Okay.
that nice median right there. So, plus, it's for boxing and everything like that. It's pretty nice. I love it.
Okay.
Made it myself.
Right on. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
know, oftentimes, and my experience, like when I signed up my kids for, karate, right? It was like oftentimes it's about, hey, come in and get, check us out. There's usually like a low involvement, kind of like low risk commitment kind of offering. Get into the door, check things out, and then kind of land it, and then expand that relationship beyond it, right? So oftentimes, you may use a deal pipeline to look at what are the milestones between those key things. So what do they, is there, do you do like appointments, or do they
Well, you
come
know
and
what? I haven't really
check it
started up
out?
on that. I haven't really
Yeah,
started up on all that yet, but I did get
sure.
some manufacturing connections through by outreach myself, personal outreach through Gmail, and
Okay.
Instagram. Some people hit me up on Instagram for manufacturing companies from worldwide. Actually, I was surprised from where they're coming from. Like, yo, we got deals on this custom stuff. If you want to hook us up, or call us up, let me know.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm basically just like feeling it all out before I make some major moves in what I
Okay.
consider moves.
Right on. Yeah, and so if it's more in the B2B space, then yeah, then you're looking at these longer term relationships, right? That you're needing to nurture, and so there's like a discovery process and sort of exploring and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, you're in a good spot, and if you start this and just increment, for right now it might be just a 1% kind of effort kind of thing each day, but it's gonna 1% a day amounts up, and it starts to compound, and you start with the simple habits, very early on, then like with stuff like this, then it's going to make it easier to kind of continue into it, as you continue to grow.
Yeah, early to my social media, I kind of burnt myself out, and I also had to take a break. So I got to find that balance myself, and figure out this end on it.
Hmm.
Completely. I mean, I knew a little bit, but you're getting more into depth about what it's actually like with experience.
Hmm.
All right, nice, thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. Did anyone? What else are other people getting out of this right now, or out of this last exchange, or about the sales pipeline in general? Not all at once.
Sorry, it takes me a minute to find the unmute button, but I was going to say, what I appreciate is that literally it's so important that we have the step by step of where our customers are going next for us to track our sales, because I think that happens like a lot where even I reach this point where I'm like, I think I'm doing okay, or I'm hoping that I'll have money at the end of the month. But really, like, you really can track your goals and what you need to keep to make those goals. Like maybe I am not closing that, and I didn't realize that that is affecting the bottom line this way. So it's really nice to have a visual example of that.
Yeah. Thank you.
It also, I would say it also can help you do your projections for what's coming up in the next quarters to 6 months to a year. So you can figure out, are you going to be able to pay your bills? Are you going to be able to be over projection? Are you going to be able to give out quarterly bonuses to your sales team if you've got a sales team, or whatever that might be? So it makes a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And forecasting is a great thing to call out, and having a pipeline set up like this allows you to forecast more quickly. really difficult to forecast if you have all your deals on a whiteboard, for example, because then you gotta like do the math and like it's gonna take a lot of time. Do you carry the zero? It just gets too confusing. If you have tools like this, then you know it's doing a lot of these calculations for you. And kind of going back to the stages here, if you know what your win probability is at each stage along your pipeline, then you can get even more focused forecasted metrics. So if you know that, you know, for the contracts that you send, that you're going to close 9 out of 10 of those, because there's still going to be 1 out of 10 little stragglers that don't want to sign the paperwork, even though they are saying, yes, let's send it over, etc. Then we can set these different win probabilities. And that way we know if we're kind of top heavy, where we have a lot of pipeline deals with an appointment scheduled, well, we know even though we have $1 million in pipeline there, if it's a 20% win probability, we can really only forecast about $200,000, and that might be 3-6 months or however long, depending on how long your sales cycle is. And with these win probabilities in place, you can pull up some reporting. So I'm actually going off the script here. I think the one area is useful is there's actually some sales forecasting reporting. And so by having the pipeline with all the win probabilities in there, there's a way to forecast it out. I can't actually pull it on the fly, so I'll have to pull it another way. But you can kind of get a sense if we go back to the deal pipeline, we could see at least from a total perspective where we're at. But there's going to be some other reporting and widgets that will actually take the win probability and give you a final number and say, actually, this is your forecasted revenue for your pipeline. Any other questions about the pipeline? Okay.
Sorry, one more. Just I like how you can, like, when you're keeping track of your customers too, so that they don't, you know, like they don't get lost in the shuffle. You know, there's nothing more annoying than having to explain yourself over and over again to someone in the company or whatever. So I like how you can see where they're at and you can make notes about different things so that you know, you don't have to repeat yourself and the customer doesn't feel like they're lost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, I think when looking at the adoption of a CRM, right, is a big key to whether or not it works or not. Having the tool alone won't get you the whole way there. It's about using it and having that discipline and the habits in place to be using it on a consistent basis. But when that's done well, then everyone's, yeah, you're right. They're on the same page and they're in sync, and they have all the details. I see Shane in the chat. He said, I like that all the contact info is organized in one place and you can put reminders and making follow-ups. Yeah, that's like huge. So I think the task system, which that's going to be like a huge, let me pivot to that right now. So in tasks, so as I create all these tasks and all the different contact records and company records or deal records, now I can go to one central place to say, okay, what do I need to work on today? And so you can see that I have these 2 tasks here to follow up, one with HubSpot and one with Brian, and they're both overdue. And there's different ways I can see where all of my open tasks, and we can see my one for the future with Dunder Mifflin that I set up here. But and as you create more tasks, you can create queues. And so queues might be, you know, like one example queue might be like introduction calls. And oh, that's gonna be a pro feature. So I'm not gonna go into that, but with tasks, you can have just open tasks On the paid levels, you can have queues, which allow you to like bunch lots of tasks into a particular queue. So if there's like a type of task that a person typically performs over and over again, you can structure those types of tasks into queues that keeps them focused. And the other really nice thing to it is when you click on this task here, it's going to bring up this banner that allows me to like go from task to task to task in a way. So kind of stay in the stream of task mode. So if I see here, I have this task title, to follow up with Brian. Well, I don't want to necessarily follow up Brian right now. It's kind of late. I might reschedule this and say I'm going to follow up. I'm going to follow up tomorrow. So usually when I've missed the due date on my tasks, I'll recommit to them and say when I'm going to do it by. And so I'm going to do this task by 2 o'clock tomorrow. Resave, and then it can say, that task is now complete, or I've reassigned the date for that task. Let's see, Nita, you asked about Asana. So I think Asana is more of a project management tool. It's my understanding. I don't think they do CRM stuff, but I could be mistaken. But I think it's more for managing different projects through a project management suite. A couple other tools that are really useful at the free level for salespeople. One is documents. So if there are documents that you're consistently sending out to people, these could be like sales sheets or information sheets or explainers or guides, whatever it might be, but it's not something that you typically have on your website. It's usually more, it's something again that your sales team is using as an asset and sending out to people. You can create it as a document within the HubSpot CRM. And what that allows you to do is to take your PDFs or PowerPoint or Word documents and create a unique link that you can share to people to have them view the document. And why that's useful, mainly for tracking purposes. So you can see when people engage with the content, when they're opening it. And that's going to be a useful indicator to understanding their engagement. And so you can see if someone spent 10 minutes looking at your capability sheet or if they spent 2 minutes. That's going to give you some different types of indicators on how engaged that buyer is. There's also the meetings link, and this is probably like my favorite thing in life. Instead of going, if you find yourself or people on your team trying to negotiate times to meet back and forth, this isn't nothing's really new about the meeting link, but what's nice about this particular meeting link is that when you're using the HubSpot CRM meeting link, all people who create meetings with you are going into your CRM system. So while there are a lot of systems out there like Calendly and a lot of other ones that do a great job, I'm not knocking them, but if they're not integrating with the CRM system where you're keeping those pieces of information that you can actually use and use for marketing purposes, use for sales purposes, then then that's kind of a missing link. I would encourage you to check this one out. You can integrate with your Google Calendar or your Office 365 calendar. And it typically has most of the settings that you want, like lead times for bookings or padding between meetings. It's got a lot of different kind of options. On the free version, you get one meeting link, and which is usually sufficient for most people. So there's another useful thing for engaging people throughout your sales cycle. I think, do people use meeting links today? I'm curious. You feel free to say yes, meeting links in the chat, or no meeting links, or shake your head. Yeah, okay, Megan, meeting links, good. Yeah, I think meeting links are, I like to offer a bit of both actually because I know some people are a little bit like, when they get the meeting link, they're kind of like, I don't want to like pick a time on your calendar, right? So usually I give them the option. I say, hey, you can either suggest a time or you can go to this meeting link and pick a time that's on my calendar. if they pick the time, great. Then I know it works and we're good to go. It just might take me more time to fulfill on someone's request if they send me a proposed time back instead. But I think both are nice. I know some people are depending on your persona, right? Who you're working with, they might like the meeting link idea and they might not like it. So useful to keep in mind. And then I think the other key piece with this too, I'm going to show quotes. So with quotes, we can create your quotes within the HubSpot platform. What's useful about this is so I have one quote here for HubSpot. And the quote will look like a web page. It's going to also have tracking. So if you're into this, typically again for like more your B2B, so your coaches and your accountants, right? You might send out proposals like this, and you can describe your products and terms, purchasing conditions, and so forth. And there's even Stripe integration. So if you want people to pay directly through this form, they can download, they can print the quote, sign the quote, use an e-signature. Some of those features might be on different settings, not necessarily in the free. So I just want to call that out. But you can at least create these quotes and send them to people on the free version and start to track that. So that goes over most of the CRM pieces that I wanted to cover, and that kind of wraps up my demonstration. So now we have some open time, so I'll just kind of open up for really broadly now, or if you want to keep talking about sales pipelines and that kind of stuff too, but I'm happy to answer any questions about HubSpot or Media Garcia or the other kind of thoughts about sales funnels and growth. A couple of resources here. There's a meeting link. So yeah, my email's on the screen here. Feel free to jot that down. It's louis@mediagarcia.com. This link below will take you to my meeting link. And why don't I just put that into the chat window here. So that's my meeting link. Okay, Talia. So your question is, what do you think the priority for new businesses for sales funnels? Well, I think when I think about business starting from scratch, like what's going to be important to track is it's a bit difficult because it can change a lot, especially early on when you're trying out different sales strategies and seeing what works. What I would recommend is to look at the key milestones across your buyer's journey. So and do like the ideal buyer journey. So if you just had a dream, if you had to think about your dream prospect and like them going through your sales journey, like what does that look like from step by step? And I would look at those key milestones and have those be stages, have a way to be able to track when people move between those stages. You don't want to have it be so vague to where it's like, we're working on this lead or we're not working this lead. That's not going to be helpful enough. You're going to want to know more, you're going to want to know deeper, what stage are they at? And because that should give you some insight into what's the next action to take to keep moving that sale forward. So I would also encourage to keep consistent. I think that's the consistency is a key thing for new business. I think one potential pitfall for businesses, especially early on, is that usually the business owner is the primary salesperson, and they're typically also the primary service deliverer. So they're doing all the roles. And so when they sell the deal, they put their sales hat off, and then they put the service delivery hat on, and then they stop selling. And that loss of consistency and movement with the deals is going to it's going to freeze the pipeline. And so, you want to look at still keeping that sales momentum going. If you're an owner and you just got to do the service delivery, you don't have another person yet who can take on your sales activities, well, dedicate at least a fraction of your time, but make sure it's getting that time, because you don't want your whole pipeline to freeze because you got to finish a project, because you're just going to be in this feast and famine kind of mode. So keeping consistent, eventually working, if you're a business owner who is the primary sales person and you don't like being that person, then try to create a system early on and get someone else plugged into it quick. But you need to have the structure and the system ready. You can't just plug in anyone and expect them to get it. And the more loosey-goosey it is, the more they're not going to deliver on what you're hoping them to do. And then they're going to be crabby about not being an effective salesperson. So do everyone a favor and really get clear on what the sales pipe, like the journey, the stages, the pipeline, what does that look like? And then what are like the meetings, the scripts, the conversations, like really lay it all out. So it's like super laid out. I don't want it to be robotic. It doesn't have to be that, but it ought to be clear so people know what kind of boundaries and what rules to kind of play by in the role. Okay, so Talia says, yeah, that it's hard to have consistency. It totally is. I think it's it's a matter of accountability. It's making sure that it's people are clear that it's like part of their accountability for their day-to-day role. And then measuring a number, of some sort. So I would pick one number that you want to measure and track to and say, okay, well, to be consistently well in the sales area of our business, you might need to do 100 calls in a month. And so make that the thing, right, that you track. And if you're seeing consistency in that, then you'll start to get some sense about what the performance is on your sales engine. If you're inconsistent with the sales engine, then we don't know what's really causing sales and what's not causing sales. It just kind of, it's like peaks and valleys. Okay, Strike Buddy. So how have you approached buyers? So this sounds like a really good prospecting question. And so it kind of depends on who you're targeting. And so I think in your case, when you're looking at like a B2B space where you want to know first of all, like what kind of businesses that you want to be targeting. And then you also want to know who within that business is the person that you're targeting. It could, and a lot of times that information might not be really clear, especially for people who are starting out, like who is it within the business that needs to make this decision, especially if you're targeting large businesses or enterprises, large corporations that have really complex hierarchies and procurements and legal teams and all this kind of stuff. It makes doing business with them a little trickier. So you have to identify who are all the roles within the business and what kind of questions each person needs and what to address. When kind of going back to I think this inbound methodology around approaching buyers, it's a little bit let's see here, I'm going to pull up the flywheel. So to me, it's more about making it easier for them to see the value in what you're doing. So having to show up in the right places to see what I'm offering is valuable. So how we do that as a marketing agency is we do webinars and like this, but we also have a weekly webinar where we dig into more aspects of the HubSpot CRM. And we know that the webinar is oftentimes an easy way for people to start to learn about the tools and start somewhere and then kind of build from there. So there's a couple of different sales strategies or sales frameworks that are out there. Ones that are like highly involved, ones that are not so involved, and I think it could be a matter of just identifying what's kind of sales framework makes sense for you. Thank you for your question. Who else has questions? Well, while you got me on the topic of sales frameworks, I'm going to put that on the screen. And then Talia, I see your question. I'll get to that in just a moment here. So I put on the screen 10 different sales frameworks that are fairly common. And so depending on what you're selling, who you're targeting, what the journey typically is for them, there's different approaches that you can have.
Yeah, I was late, so I missed a couple of these screens right here. My bad.
It's all good. I mean, we can. What's good about this, if you want, take the link that the meeting link that I shared earlier, and if you want to reach out, and we can always get this content to you at another time, right? So, so don't worry, you didn't miss out on this forever, right? It's just
Yeah, I would need this link.
Okay, good. All right, Talia, you mentioned what is a general investment for CRM? So great question. I've seen a couple of different pricing models out there. I will I'll actually just pull up the HubSpot pricing page while we're at it. And okay. So if I pull up the free tools here on HubSpot's website, we can see that we can see the different kinds of tools that are included with this. So you can go through and click on each of see all the features, and it'll give you a general sense of what's included for both the CRM tools, the marketing tools, sales tools, and service tools. So there's a little bit of free in all of it. There are some limits, and those limits, let's see here. I know they're somewhere around here. They're probably like in the FAQs. You can have up to 1 million contacts, which is usually sufficient for most businesses, at least less than 5 years in size or age. And it can integrate with your email. You can invite as many users as you want to, so you can have 100 people inside your CRM. And there's this link to the product service catalog here at the bottom. This will actually get to the more specifics for every single aspect of the tool, what comes with it. So that's a good place to start with. There are other tools that have like startup or monthly costs, depending on the users or the amount of features that you have. HubSpot has different add-ons in that same respect too. What I've seen, what I typically see is when you're looking at some of the paid tools, usually you can see like there's a starter package, and then there's also a pro package. There is obviously a difference between there's quite a difference of a price drop that usually is what people notice when they're like, oh gosh, you go from 45 to 800, right? The big differentiator there typically is on the pro tools, there's a lot of automation involved. And so it's about growing and scaling and a lot of tools around that. So if you're having profitability, you have a good system in place, and now you're looking to automate and grow that system up, then the professional suite of tools is a great place to go. And yes, at that sticker price per month, one, you want to make sure that you're going to obviously articulate a return on your investment from that. So we oftentimes are looking at how many website sessions and how many leads are being created to justify that type of push. Until you're there at that point, if you're a $500,000 business or less, usually you're starting with the starter tools. And the starter tools, there's a starter tool for marketing. There's also a starter tool for sales, and then another one for customer service. And they also have bundles. So you can actually get all three for the $50 a month. They're doing this as a promo because of the circumstances so many businesses are in right now. And if you are thinking that about HubSpot in specific, then my request is that you set up a conversation with me so that we can figure out what's the right place to start for you, because free might be sufficient. And if you're thinking about something, then we ultimately want to make sure that we get you at the right place. Other tools are fairly comparable, in price when it comes to their CRM. Usually it's price based on users, usually like $6 to $10 per user or so. Oftentimes, if they have a team of 5 or 10, then they're into the hundreds of dollars, usually when looking at more of a set of tools like marketing or sales tools included. The big caveat with all this is probably Salesforce. I mean, again, that's more of an enterprise tool. They're going to be big bucks unless you're a nonprofit. And most of the others are SaaS companies that are trying to provide or be a cost leader in most respects. So that's what I found for pricing in the space. Thank you for your question. We have just a couple minutes left here. Any final thoughts, or Megan, what do you think? Is it good to wrap it up?
I think it's good to wrap it up. I think it was great information. I'm getting a lot of direct messages to me that I'm trying to field and answer at the same time, which is absolutely awesome. But I really appreciate you taking the time that you took tonight to answer so many questions and so many in depth. I think that it was really beneficial to all those that were on, and kind of based on the information that was sent to me directly, I think it was very eye-opening for a lot of people to see what a true CRM is, because it is such an important tool, like we said, about building businesses and bringing so many different concepts together, that I think that a lot of people have it at different areas. As Shane said earlier, it's so nice to have everything in one place where all your customers are, and you can schedule your follow-ups and all of that information. And it just makes such a big difference when you're setting your goals and everything for the rest of the year. So I really appreciate that you took the time out. And if you are watching the replay and you have any questions on any of the content in this video, feel free to use the phone number that's in the description, and we can get you the answers to any of the questions that you might have. Leave any comments, and we can link you up with Media Garcia if we can't answer those questions as well. You guys all have a wonderful night. Thanks for joining us for this webinar on the 90 days. Remember, we do not have a webinar next week because it is Thanksgiving, but we will be right back here the following week on December 3rd for blogs and vlogs to build traffic, and we will see you all then. You guys have a wonderful night.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.